this is CanadianQueen76 and welcome back to my reviews of The Walking Dead. In this episode, I'm going to do Season 5, Episode 6, Consumed. And this episode opens up with Carol, who is contemplating leaving the group. And she's in a car, or around that car, and Daryl happens upon the scene. And before he can actually talk to her about what's going on with her and why she's alone, the hospital car goes by, so then he immediately wants to take off after that car because he knows that those people are connected to where Beth is. So when I think about this episode, it was very quiet. It was a very quiet scene. You see, I don't have my two reviewers with me because they thought it was quite boring. It was just quiet. Carol is dealing with a lot of things within herself about what happened with the girls and Tyrese, and now, you know, and then also being exiled from the group, and she's not really sure what the other members know about it. She really hasn't been able to talk about it, and so she's kind of either reminiscing a lot and just a little bit guilt-ridden. I'm not sure. So she just really wants to know, is it possible to start over again? And that is probably one of the biggest things. Whoops. That is probably one of the biggest things that is the question for this whole episode, because I remember when they were in the office scene, Daryl is really resilient, and he's like, you have to start over. This is exactly what it is. These are the times that we live in now. You have to be able to start over to survive. And so she kind of lashed back and was like, you don't know me, you know, you don't know what I've been through. But I'm kind of with Daryl. I think that you have to be able to live with what choices that you make, but at the same time understand that now we're in survival mode, and survival mode, what goes with survival mode is not the same as what goes with first world problems. They are no longer in the first world. They have to pretty much survive day by day. And so when we look at this episode, I just think it was interesting to see the dynamic, because I think that Carol and Daryl are really strong characters in the group, and to have them to be together and just have this be a really quiet episode, you get to see a lot of the things that Daryl picked up, like, you know, the playing with the fire and using the fire as a strategy to distract the walkers, so he can go through things. So I really thought that he was taking a notebook to write, and I was like, why is he taking a notebook? But it was nice to see that he was able to, you know, use a notebook, distract the walkers while they go through things. And so I think another way that he used the fire was in the dumpster. It was a so I just thought it was cool that he was able to use fire to do those kind of things. And so one of the things that you pick up on as you're watching is that Noah is watching them, and Noah is figuring out what's going on. But you also realize that Noah hasn't went far away from the hospital. He is intent on going back to figure out a way to rescue Beth along with the others. So the encounter with Noah was interesting, because I know that in the beginning when Noah took their weapons, Carol's ready to shoot them, because, you know, without their weapons, he set them up to die. And so Daryl knocks it out, you know, knocks her shot out the way, and she couldn't shoot him. But there was this question about who is being more compassionate, I guess is the word. Who's been more compassionate when it comes to dealing with other humans. And I think that, you know, Carol loses it at one point, and that comes into question, and then Daryl loses it at one point, and that comes into question. However, if somebody's taking my weapons, that's, you know, even if I'm strong enough to defend myself, you still, you know, are giving me a disadvantage to what's really happening here. So I just thought it was interesting that they've each had a redemption point in saving Noah, and then finally being able to find out what Noah was all about. So when Noah's connection with Beth was determined, then they were able to figure out what's going on in the hospital, but at the same time come up with a small plan. And in the beginning, I really thought that Carol, from one of the past episodes, I thought that she ended up in the hospital because it was a plan. I was sad to see that she got hit by the car. I was like, what? She got hit by she was just running out in the street. I guess you don't look both ways anymore. You just run on out there, and she got hit by them. So Noah had to hold Daryl back, because at this point, they wouldn't be able to save her. And I know that they would have probably killed those cops, because they don't tend to take strong people into the group. So hopefully Carol will recover and they will make, you know, and Beth and she will make it out of the hospital. That was pretty interesting. So I know now that Daryl and Noah are headed back, and that's the person who was with them. He was headed back to the church so that way they can convince the others to come up with some kind of plan to save Carol and Beth. That's what I had. That's all I could think of on this one. And I actually have been reading the comics, but Daryl is not in the comic book. So what do you do with that? So it'd be interesting to see how the next one, how the next episode jumps off. But I really am pulling for Carol and I'm pulling for Beth to get out. Beth has grown up a little bit, but our teenagers don't tend to stay around in these episodes, but we'll see what happens. Well, if you like this review, or if you have any other questions, comment below, let me know. Like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.